Hey again, it's Christina from Sunshine and Flora. So in this video, I'm going to share with you guys 6 flowers that I will not be planting this year. Now, I'm not planting these because they are not great varieties of flowers. I'm simply cutting them from my grow list because they do not work well for me as cut flowers. Now, the 6 varieties I'm going to talk about in these videos are mostly started from seed. I do have one that is started from corm. I'll go through these in no particular order, put pictures on the screen, and tell you my exact reasonings on why they're getting cut from my list. The first one on my list are asters. Now, asters I'm cutting from the list for a couple different reasons. The first one, I always seem to have problems with them germinating, which also gives me wasted space on my grow shelf. The second reason is once I do get them to germinate, I just can't get them to grow well in the garden. The plants end up being short for me, the stems aren't usable for bouquets, and they take up that much needed space in the garden that I could be using for other things. So this year, after trying to grow them for 3 years, asters are getting cut from the list. The second one on my list are marigolds. I've grown marigolds every single year in the garden with hopes of using them for cut flowers. Every year I decide they aren't my favorite, so I scale back how many plants I grow every single year. This year, I'm not gonna grow any plants. I do love to grow marigolds out in my vegetable garden to attract pollinators, to ward off some animals, but as far as growing them for cut flowers, I just don't find that they work well for me. Marigolds tend to give off a strong scent that some people don't care for, which is one reason that I'm deciding not to grow them. The other one is, while they give a nice poofy bloom in the varieties that I grow, there are other flowers that just seem to work better. They also have a very branching habit, which for me, it makes them a little harder to work with. So cutting them out of the garden, need that space for something else. The next one on my list, lilies. Last year, I tried lilies for the first time with big hopes of having these big, beautiful lilies that I could add into my bouquets, and I just didn't love them. I got some really nice blooms, and I know there's a lot of people that grow lilies. They really just aren't for me. First of all, half of them only bloomed, so I'm not sure if they didn't get adequate water, but the ones that did bloom, they just didn't have that homegrown flower farmer feel that the rest of my flowers have. So cutting lilies because they just don't mix in with everything else I have growing. The next flower that's getting cut off my list is Orlea. I absolutely love the look of Orlea. I love that it's a cool flower and you can plant it out earlier to get earlier blooms, but it just doesn't work for me. Last year I grew Orlea and decided I was going to harvest it only for the seed pods because I actually do love the looks of those. But the stems were very short, they were hard to mix into my wrapped bouquets, and while they worked well for the jarred arrangements, they just took up that space in the garden. The reason I didn't harvest them at the flowering stage is because I always have such a hard time with them wilting. Orlea is very hard to harvest and not have wilt, which is why I wanted to harvest them at the seed pod stage. But because they're always so short and all the difficulties they give me, cut from the list. The next flower on my list that's getting cut is Nigella. I grew Nigella not for the flowers, but also for the seed pods. And while they were beautiful, they just weren't what I expected in my bouquets. So this year, instead of growing Nigella for seed pods, I'm going to be growing bread seed poppies. They have a much longer stem length, and I think they will fit into my bouquets as that texture accent that I really was hoping for. All right, last one on the list is Dianthus. Now, I'm not cutting all varieties of Dianthus, just the regular Dianthus, if you could call it that. The smaller Dianthus flowers, they didn't have the stem length that I hoped. The blooms didn't last as long as I hoped, but I am growing Amazon Dianthus, which I have absolutely fallen in love with. Now, Amazon Dianthus has a different cluster type flower bloom, and they had really long stems, long vase life. There's a wide variety of colors available. So while I'm cutting some regular Dianthus, I am definitely growing all the Amazon Dianthus that I can in the garden. Okay, so that does it for the 6 varieties I'm cutting from the garden. Stay tuned for a lot more videos, including my entire seed starting schedule, what I am growing in the garden, and a video on my entire garden plan for my in-ground garden and my hoop house. Hope you're having a great new year. We'll see you soon.